Hello. How are you guys doing? You see how I'm actually being. How are you guys doing? Because I'm so loud. I don't really think I need this. Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna talk to you today about first-time home buyer, and it's. I know maybe some of you went through this process already, so you know it could be overwhelming, it could be stressful, but we're here to just guide you through and tell you that it's not scary and it doesn't need to be boring as well. So if we go to next slide, please, thank you. We're gonna introduce ourselves to you very quick. So my name is Mai El Zahoui. I'm a realtor with Portside Real Estate Group. I am a proud Egyptian, a Muslim woman. I've been here 12 years for the entire journey in the United States, but here in Maine, I've been here in 2020. So I would like to say it was a little bit easy for me when I came here because it was COVID time and it was fun and interest rates were low, but we're not gonna get in there. So I'll have Amy introduce herself too.
Can you hear me okay? So I'm Amy Torrey. I'm a mortgage loan officer working for Androscoggin Bank. I've been in banking for almost 20 years, specifically mortgage lending in the position I'm in now for just over 10. Um, and I'm excited to have an opportunity to be here today. Thank you so much to Mai for including me. I do want to preface this by saying I have not had a lot of time to prepare because she just asked me a few days ago. But of course, I jumped at the opportunity to say yes. So excited to be here. And really, our focus this morning for our bit is just to talk a little bit about the home buying process and to hopefully take some of the fear and trepidation away that a lot of people may feel or experience. So if you're not a first-time home buyer, there's still hopefully some relevant and helpful information here for everyone. And thank you so much for being here today.
All right, so you see, like we said, the home buying journey does not have to be scary or I would say boring. So next slide, please. So we're gonna go over this and we're just gonna say very quickly, why buy a home? So I'm not gonna say specifically in Maine, but why buy a home in general? So build wealth, and I hate that the word equity in there because some people does not understand what is equity mean. So I'm gonna make it very simple. If you buy your home for, let's say 300,000, and you paid 100,000 already, so you have that 100,000 as an equity, assuming that the value of your home is still at 300,000. So that money, you actually can use it. Let's say something happened, you wanted to renovate, you wanted even a loan for whatever reason, so you can actually go to a bank, to Amy, and take that money out as a loan where you can actually use it. So that portion of the money that you can use it, we call it equity. And like my husband would like to say, why are we paying money to strangers? That's what happens when you pay rent. You're paying somebody else's mortgage. So it is always good to have your own mortgage, invest in your own self and in your own home. Belonging, so of course, like we all wanna join a safe and a community and feel like we belong somewhere. So you get that, of course, by buying a home. You get to know your neighbors, you get to go around. And for the ones buying their forever home, that's where you get that feeling of belonging. And yeah, make it yours. And I always go tell my clients, especially the first time home buyers, I'll be like, go nuts. Now, for the first time, you can build whatever you want. If you have like extra acreage, they're allowing you, go do whatever you want. You can have a beautiful yard if you don't have a yard. You can paint the walls, all the stuff that you can do when you have a rental. Next slide, please. So now we're gonna go towards, and I'm gonna try to go quick, so I'm gonna do my best not to give examples. So I love to give examples. So this is like I like to say, it's your road to the keys. So first step is always get pre-approved. So we will get sometimes first home buyer where they want to go look at all the houses out there, but you have to get your pre-approval first. So pre-approval, and I know again some people doesn't know what is that. When I came to Maine and we were buying our first home, I did not know what is that. They tell me, go get your pre-approval. I'm like, I don't even know what is that. Where do I get that? So think of it as a lender slip. It's one piece of paper that Amy or anybody like Amy will give it to you. She's gonna talk more about that, so I'm just gonna say for now, it's gonna tell you what are you approved for, what type of a loan, and what's the amount of money that you're approved for. That will come to me, then you hire a buyer's agent. And that's why I'm saying sometimes you're gonna actually, step 2 is gonna be step 1 for you, but I will actually guide you back to step 1 because that's what you need to do first. So step 2, you hire a buyer's agent. That's me or somebody like me, like Colleen here. She's with Portside as well. So again, if you didn't do step 1, I'll get you to that. After that, we'll go to the fun part for all the first-time home buyers, especially, is house hunting. So that's where we're gonna go look at houses, and I know some people will get distracted and be like, oh my God, this is the countertops that I always want. Look at this yard. But then they will not pay attention that there is a leak in the roof. So pay attention to the bad and ugly things in the house too. Step 4, make an offer. So that's when I become your negotiator. So in high heels, okay? So I will go, that's when we're gonna talk about lots of things too, like price, what do you wanna offer, how to negotiate it, terms, strategies to win the offer. And later on, we're gonna talk, about workforce. So I know that some people here probably, and I heard it during these 3 days where we bought an offer in this house and we couldn't win. We bought an offer in this house and we couldn't win. This is sadly one of these times where we're still trying to get out of this. We don't have enough inventory, especially in that mid-price range. But if you have a good agent, you will build a good strategy. They will talk to you about your options on how to win the offer. Step 5, inspection and appraisal. And Amy, are you gonna talk about appraisal?
I can.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
so I'll go then very briefly over that.
Okay.
So inspection is typically, actually, you have to go and deal with a third-party company. So it's not a thing that is gonna be included in your financing. So this is something you're gonna have to pay out of bucket normally. So inspectors, I like to say that it's like your mom looking at your boyfriend or girlfriend with deep suspicions, looking for red flags. That's your inspector. So that's their job. They will get in the house and look for red flag. They're not there to look at the good stuff and the countertops that you want to sleep on. But no, their job is to get the bad stuff. They're still gonna build a whole report telling you the good stuff and the bad stuff, but that's their job. And appraisal, I'm gonna go very briefly on it. So appraisal, if you're not paying cash and going through financing, so your bank is gonna require that step. Sometimes it's waived, but that's a whole story for another day. But typically, they will ask an appraiser to go and they will find some other houses in the same area that looking similar to the one that you're looking at. So the point of it is just to get the value. So if you're going to a house at, again, I'm gonna say 300,000, but it's realistically speaking worth 280, they will kick the price to that, and there are multiple options at this point. So we're not gonna dive deep into this right now, but that's the whole thing. They need to get that value. They ask them for 300. Is it really worth 300? Is it more? Is it less? And last step, this is my favorite as a real estate agent. Colleen is like giggling. So this is all real estate agents' favorite step. Not because we're done, but it's because this is where we hand you your keys. It's very exciting. And we hand you a gift too. Yes. Most of us will do that. But yeah, closing, we saw it all. We saw the people that they're jumping when we get the keys. We saw the people that have happy tears. Then you go home and start fighting with your spouse. Where are we gonna put the TV now? That's just me having flashes right now. Next step, thank you. So we're gonna go over what your agent should do and your lender should do. So your agent should actually listen to you. So if you're going to a real estate agent, and I'm gonna tell you from experience, when we came here, I fired 4 agents. I know that sounds awful, but they didn't listen to us. They didn't listen to what me and my husband wanted, so we just kept going, okay, next, till we hit the lottery with one of them. But they should listen to you. So if you go telling somebody, I need 2 bedroom, 2 bathroom, this is not negotiable. If you're going to a 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, it just doesn't make sense. They're not listening to you. So run to the next agent. Explain things like you're smart human beings, because you are. So when you come tell me, what's a pre-approval? I'm like, who doesn't know what's a pre-approval? You should not do that as an agent. So if your agent does do that, they are not explaining things to you like you're a smart human being and should understand what they're talking about. Because this is like marriage, which is weird. Or dating, make it a little bit easier, because dating you can get it out very easily. So your lender and your agent should both respect your time, should listen to what you want. If not, just run. So make you feel like you are not bothering them. So if you come, and this happen a lot to us, especially in the weekends, you're already like, okay, it's slow. You come Friday and you're like, you know what? I'll take the day off tomorrow, or go out and do something with my partner. And then somebody call you in the morning, we have an open house, and this is your client. It's not somebody just random, it's your client. We have an open house in this place. We really love it. Let's go ahead and see it. And you'll be like, I already have plans. If your agent does that, run. So I skipped one thing in here, respect your culture and values. This is one of the things actually for us as immigrants, it's very important. And I'm gonna speak out of my own experience. When dealing with an agent that doesn't understand, for example, that I don't drink wine because this is our religion, but then you go give me a gift that has a wine bottle, I'm just like, did you even pay attention? So in real estate, you guys need to be treated as more than a transaction. You are not a number. So if your agent is not getting to know you, and I'm not saying that, oh, they have to take you out to dinner or whatever, but they need to get to know you. What do you do? Have that chit chat. For me personally, I actually try to take everybody to lunch. After the very first day, when we go, like, let's say, see 3, 4 houses or whatever, we go after that and have lunch, because this is not the time for me to talk real estate. This is my time to get to know you. So if I know, for example, that there's something that you don't like, or the opposite you do like, and I get lots of surprises from that, so I will get you that as a gift in closing day, and you'll be like, oh my God, she did listen. Because this is what is this about. Like, buying a home is more than a transaction. It's about the connection that you get to make with people. So the last one will be tell you the truth, even if it's not what you want to hear. And this has come as a struggle sometimes, because, especially with buyers, they don't want to hear the truth. So you have to listen sometimes. It's a communication from both directions. So like, I would listen to you, please listen to us when we tell you, you shouldn't be looking at this house, for example. It's way above your price. Like, don't waste your time. So listen to your agent, they know better. Next slide, please. Your lender should break down numbers. You don't need to go Google stuff when they tell you about, right? So you should understand that when they break it down for you to make it easy for you, not you sitting in Google because you don't understand what your lender said. So your lender should make the numbers make sense to you. Be upfront about costs, and I'm gonna say almost all the lenders are very upfront about that. They will give you a sheet with everything. If you do not get that, please ask for it. Amy's gonna go more on that information as well. Offer real options. Speaks for itself. Be reachable. And I'm gonna say one thing about that, because we see this happening actually a lot, where we get scams. So I'm not gonna tell you always go with a local mortgage broker. Go with whomever you want. You have options. We're not here to tell you what to do. We're here to guide you and give you options. However, there are scams, so I'm gonna tell you about, very briefly, about a situation that actually happened recently with me. This was targeted to me actually, or to Asians, not to buyers. So somebody sent me a pre-approval from Disney Bank. I didn't personally know there is such a thing. I'm like, if they have Disney Bank, or I don't know. So I went and Googled, oh no, they changed the name to blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, where is your pre-approval? So I get that, and the address on it was actually for a park in New York. I mean, unless you have your laptop working in a park and that's your address, right? But the second I was like, that address does not exist, I did not hear from them. So there are scams out there. Do not hand your social security number to a lender that you don't even know where does they work. So know your lender, because that's the person who's gonna go over your credit score. You're gonna have to give them your social security number at a point. So here's Amy, you see her, you know, she works with Androscoggin Bank. Go with lenders where I wouldn't have to say you can see them, because sometimes you're working with somebody in another state, but make your effort to Google people to know who they are. Next slide, please, and thank you. Common mistakes to avoid. You see her face? That's exactly us sometimes as Asians too. So shopping before pre-approval. Oh, I want to look at this house and this house and this house and this house, but did you get your pre-approval? Get your pre-approval, please. Being too afraid to ask questions. Ask questions. I always say this is like me going to a doctor's appointment. I ask questions because I'm not a doctor. I don't even know what are they talking about sometimes. I have to go Google it as well. So ask questions, because that's our job. We're here to help you. Falling for the pretty house with the ugly problems. Yes, the countertops, backsplash, the beautiful yard. So look for the bad things as well, so you would check the boxes on what you want. Listening to cousin Ahmed instead of your trusted Asian. Oh, I have that cousin, he told me they did so and so. I'm like, is he an Asian? No, okay. So unless they are a licensed professional, listen to your agent. Thank you. Next slide, please. Okay, so that's gonna be Amy, and I'm gonna hand the floor to her.
Okay. All right. Hello, everyone. I just want to ask, is anyone in the room a first-time home buyer? A couple people? Okay. Oh, good. And I know I want to be respectful of time, so I want to go over a little bit. What is a mortgage? What goes into a mortgage? Before I talk about that, there are a couple things that I know to be true. Number one, when you buy a home, whether you're a first-time buyer or have done this many times before, buying a home is one of the biggest, most important purchases you'll make in your life. With that does come a certain amount of fear. So our title today, the home buying process doesn't have to be scary. I think the biggest thing to keep in mind when you're doing this process, and how do we avoid fear when something feels scary? I say that the biggest thing is we talk about it and we educate. So when I'm sitting with first-time home buyers, my focus has always been, I want you to go to the closing table and I want you to feel educated, prepared, empowered. And when you're signing these documents at the closing table, it's excitement you're feeling, not fear or, oh my gosh, what have I gotten myself into? So really working with a partner, a real estate partner, a lending partner, who's gonna be there for you to make sure they're putting the time in that you need. I talk a lot with buyers about, they say it takes 7 times before we learn new information, right? So I always say this is a safe space. You can ask any questions, and you can ask the same question multiple times. Because a lot of buyers, and especially new Mainers, they are not familiar with this language. Even people who've grown up here, even people who've bought homes before. It is financial literacy, and the language and the glossary of terms for buying a home are very different, and it's not something we do on a regular basis. Segueing into glossary of terms, very exciting stuff. So in a mortgage, this is essentially the mortgage is the way, the promise to pay, right? So, and part of your mortgage is made up of your principal, which is the amount of money that you're borrowing, divided. Most people, we do a 30-year fixed mortgage. So it's the amount of money you're borrowing paid back over 360 months. Interest is going to be the cost of borrowing. So that's the interest rate is multiplied by the outstanding principal, and that's added to your principal and interest payment. Your rate, this is going to be represented is a percentage. And a lot of people ask me the difference between an interest rate and an APR. So if you're ever looking at your loan estimate, if you're ever looking at your bank statement, you see your interest rate listed and you see APR. APR is the total of all of the costs that you're paying to get that loan. So what the fees are, the title attorney fees, the closing costs, all of that is what goes into making your APR. Okay, next slide. So how am I doing on time? We're pretty tight on it, yeah? 10 minutes or so. So this is just talking about the costs of the loan. We don't have to get too much into this, but essentially when you're looking at making a purchase, there's a certain amount of money for a down payment. The biggest misconception, especially with first-time buyers, is that you have to put a lot of money down. There are 100% finance options, low down payment options, and we'll talk about that a little bit more later today. Closing costs are going to be your fees paid at closing, things like your appraisal, your title work, insurance, and prepaid items. Things that you prepay on a loan are going to be your homeowner's insurance, your property taxes. If you're doing a loan that has mortgage insurance, those are the items that are part of the prepaid. So escrows, if you do escrow for taxes and insurance, that's part of what we collect in your total monthly payment. And PMI stands for private mortgage insurance. When you are putting less than 20% down on a conventional loan, private mortgage insurance is required. Basically, they're saying it's riskier because you're not putting as much skin in the game. So to mitigate risk, because lenders were all about risk, right? We want to have some insurance on that loan and on that property. Next slide. So most common type of mortgages that people know and are familiar with are a fixed rate mortgage. This is where we lock the interest rate, so your principal and interest payment is never going to change for the entire term of the loan. And then adjustable rate mortgages are a little different. What that typically is, people hear the term a 5-1 ARM, a 7-1 ARM. That means the loan, the interest rate is fixed for those first 5 years, and the -1 stands for the rate adjusts after the 5-year term. It will adjust every year based on where interest rates are. Next slide. So I wanted to talk a little bit about low down payment options. We have some incredible programs here in the state of Maine. I am a huge fan, and my intro said I was a first-time homebuyer expert. This is because I absolutely love working with first-time homebuyers, and I love Maine State Housing's first-time homebuyer program. This is an incredible way to help new buyers or people just starting out in their careers, starting out with savings. They have an amazing opportunity to partner with Maine State Housing for low down payment options. There's grant money from $5,000 up to $14,000 they can get as first-time homebuyers. Make sure on their website, on Maine State Housing website, they do list all of the lenders that participate in that program. So if you know anyone who's looking to buy, that's a great resource to send them to. FHA offers loans with as little as 3.5% down. Conventional loans, a lot of people think conventional, you have to put 20% down, but there are 3% down payment options. And then rural development is a great loan program with 100% financing options, and of course, our VA loan for all of our veterans. I want to go back to Maine State Housing as well. A lot of people think that's a separate loan in and of itself. Really what Maine State Housing is any of these loans down below paired with Maine State Housing as our lending partner. Okay, next slide, please. So when you're applying for a mortgage, what we're looking at as lenders, no matter who you're working with, we're looking at your credit score, we're looking at your debt to income ratio, so how much money is coming in versus how much money is going out, and your loan to value ratio, that's how much money you're gonna put down on your property. Next slide. I spend an hour talking about this just on a regular workshop. Credit is necessary to have fair lending, equitable lending, and to make sure that we are looking at everyone the same way. Credit is also so non-logical, and people have so many questions about it. You can go ahead to the next slide. So when we're looking at your credit score, it is a number with a wide range from 300 up to 850. So essentially, you have to have credit as a buyer to be able to qualify for a mortgage, ideally. There are ways of, with someone with a short credit history, and that could be because they're just out of college, they're young, they don't have a lot of credit, or it could be because they're a new Mainer and they haven't established credit yet. There are still ways that we can help work with them to finance and help them become homeowners with things like a year of phone bills or other bills, other records of payments on time that we can utilize. And types of credit, we have revolving credit. People are most familiar with things like a credit card. That would be an example of revolving credit. Installment credit would be like a fixed payment on your auto loan. A mortgage is also a fixed credit item. And then service credit. So I guess I want to say anyone, this is like not the most exciting topic of the morning, I know, but I'm passionate about educating and communicating all of the ways that we can help you be prepared. Next slide and a time check. Thank you. So these are the things that impact your credit the most. So first and foremost, you always want to make sure you're making payments on time. I tell everyone, if you don't have automatic payments set up, please get them set up. You never want to miss a payment. That can tank your score pretty dramatically. The amount of credit owed, we call that utilization. You don't want to, let's say, for example, you have a credit card with a $1,000 limit. You want to keep your utilization at 30% or less to really get into that high credit score. So what that means is using your credit is really important. So buy things that you typically would, groceries, gas for your car, let it report to the statement and then pay that back in full if you're able to. That really helps get your score up. That really helps you increase your credit. Length of credit history is 15%, and credit mix. What that is we like to see a balance of revolving credit, fixed credit, different types of credit represented in your history. I'll have clients call me and say, I was getting ready to get a mortgage. I just paid off my auto loan. My credit score was 780 and now it's 700. Wasn't that a good thing to pay off my card? Sometimes when you pay off debt, it actually can, by eliminating that credit line, it can impact your score. So my message for everyone is the most important thing buyers can do is talk to a lender. I talk to people who are a year out from buying. I love being able to have the opportunity to get in front of people, to educate them about ways they can really get themselves set up for success, even at the very moment that they start to dream about owning a home. I'd love to talk to them. Next slide. I'm going to skip through this because we're short on time. I guess my parting words I want to say is what I was just mentioning. If you know anyone who is looking to enter into the journey of homeownership, connecting them with a lender as early as possible can be a great way to help them become educated, empowered, and ready to buy. Does anybody have any questions for us?
And if you guys feel shy, that's fine. Go ahead. So I'll go very quickly on that again, just because of time. But Colleen is right, and it's sad that she have to put us on the spot like that. So we always say fair lending. Fair lending means you can, for example, or even in real estate. So yes, the word is fair lending, but it does apply to realtors too. You can go like me, for example, as somebody when I started the journey. I'm just gonna take myself as an example. Go into some Asians where you would tell that some Asian doesn't want to work with you because you are Muslim, you're not from here. That is actually illegal. That is not right to do. Even if it wasn't legal or illegal, it's ethically wrong. You should be treated equally like everybody else. It doesn't matter what color your skin, what's your sexual orientation, what religion are you from. So if you feel like something like that is happening to you, I don't want to be the person and say, "Oh my God, go report them," I'm not that bad of a person, but
I
there
am.
are
I would
steps.
report them. I would report them immediately.
There
Report.
are steps that you need to do, yeah. So
Yeah. I think, speaking to your question, so I just came back to Androscoggin Bank. I had been working with them from 2018 to 2022. I left to go other places with my career and just came back to them. The reason I came back is because they are their culture, their values. They're a company committed to inclusion, committed to diversity, committed to all of the values that align with my own. So I would say for, you know, how special today is and this conference, would encourage everybody to look for companies that align with your values. Obviously, there are fair lending practices, and what I was speaking about credit, that's the kind of the equalizer. We are looking at every application, you know, just based on the data and the facts. So what are the numbers, what's the credit score, and that's all we're legally allowed to look at. We do things in the lending practice, like when a photo ID comes in, because we do need photo IDs to verify identity. We black that out or don't submit it to the underwriter. So the person who's making the decisions never sees that. They don't know what anyone looks like. That's not part of the underwriting process. And then I think later on today in some of our questions, we are going to talk more about some obstacles and some challenges with new Mainers who may or may not be first-time home buyers, but you know, I don't know if we want to get into it too much now, but does that answer a little bit of your question? Yeah, thank you guys. Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of lenders see a 400 and are like, oh, yikes, you decline and don't call me. Again, working with a partner who really wants to be with you on the journey, I would say, so easy answer, most lenders are looking for a credit score of 680 or higher to really get into competitive interest rates. There are always exception pricings. There's ruled RD Direct. There are other programs out there. But the baseline where we say, okay, we can work with this, we want to be at 640 to 680 is the score. Their required score for Main State Housing is 640. But if you're at 500, I would say credit building takes time. So if you do have a 400, if you do have a 500, that's the perfect time to talk to a lender and say, hey, I have some credit issues, and we can work together with you. Secured credit cards. We have things at Androscoggin Bank, and I'm sure a lot of other great local lenders. And a good banker and a good financial partner is really going to want to be on your team. The way that I look at it is it doesn't matter if there's not a sale now. If I help you to be in a better position financially, that helps everybody. That helps you, that helps your family, that helps our community. And selfishly, that helps me because you're going to tell all your friends. Amy Torrey is an amazing lender. Like, I didn't have a deal for 2 years, but she worked with me to help me build my credit. So I would say the quick answer is 640 is the minimum where you need to be. Any score that you're at, work with a lender who can really help guide you. Yes.
And I'm sorry, I hate to be that rude person. I am so sorry. Me and Amy actually gonna be hanging around. So if you guys come, please come and ask us all your questions. We just have to start the panel, and I would really love to hear from you. So please come and find us. I'm not trying to be rude. I'm so
Contact
sorry.
information here on the screen. I
Yes,
have.
please take a screenshot from our
And I'll
information
put a bunch
as well.
of business
Yeah.
cards too for anyone who has additional questions. I would love to connect later today.
Yeah. Call us, email us, come and talk to us, whatever you guys want. So we'll welcome
Mai's
our
available for
panelists in
stand-up
here.
gigs. I loved her analogy for the red flag of the mother-in-law looking at the boyfriend. That was classic.
It's true though.
Well,
Come
thank you
in,
so
you
much.
guys.
Are we ready for the
And
panel?
they did kind of book me as to put the questions for the next panel, so I'm gonna be reading from my phone because I just got thrown under the bus like that, okay? So I guess we'll just give few minutes for everybody to introduce themselves and what they do. You already met us Portside real estate agent, Amy with Androscoggin, and I will just have each one of them to go introduce themselves.
Hi, everybody. Um, my name is Dan Brennan. I am the Director of Maine State Housing Authority. Very nice to be here today.
Good morning. My name is Claude Raganje. I am the Executive Director of Prosperity Maine. Good to be here as well.
And good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ryan Fecto. I serve in the Maine legislature. I serve as the Speaker of the House. I'm serving my 5th non-consecutive term in the legislature, my 2nd non-consecutive term as Speaker. I represent my hometown of Biddeford, and I also have a day job because the Maine legislature certainly does not pay enough. And I also work at Avesta Housing, which is the largest nonprofit affordable housing developer in northern New England, based here in Portland.
Just read from my phone because we have the questions here. Oh, I'm so loud, I don't need that. So
For the Zoom, for our folks on Zoom.
okay, sorry about that. Okay, so we have a first question in here. What attracts BIPOC individuals and families to Maine's rural and urban communities? Um, I'll go first if that's okay. So I just want to say, sadly, at this point, I don't think really we have anything that's attracting. We would love to have that, so I'm going to talk about some solutions. But I just want to give you guys some numbers because the numbers are shocking actually to see. So if we're going to talk, and I'm not even going to go to Muslims like me, it's fun, I'll have you Google that in a second. But if we're going to go to African Americans, the percentage in the entire states, according to the numbers, is 2 or 3%. Just imagine 2 or 3% of everybody living in this state is Black African American. So that just shows you that as Mainers, we need to do better. We need to do something to welcome people and show them that this state does welcome you as a diversity. So Maine is sadly, one of the states where the majority here are white people. But I want to say in the same times, because I know some people see this as bad thing, but I live in Rumford. Probably some of you doesn't even know where is Rumford. So if you really seriously take your phones right now and Google how many Muslims live in Rumford, Maine, it will tell you it's unknown. So they didn't even count me and my husband yet, okay? We're working on that. But it's just me and my husband. So, and it's been actually a very good experience. So people ask me like, how do you like that? Like, are you getting discriminated again? I said, actually not. And some people, when they learned that I'm an Asian, they came and talked to me, my neighbors. They really knocked my door and came in and they're, your neighbor so-and-so told us that you're a realtor. Can you please sell our home? I'm like, sure. They're like, we know you, we sees you a lot in Hannaford, but we never talked to you. I'm like, come talk to me. So it's not just that they know me, they know where I live. It's scary a little bit, okay? but but seriously, like up there, I don't see anybody like me. But I use it to my advantage because it's just me. So I build on that, you know what, come and get to know me. When I go to Hannaford, sometimes at Dunkin', I would just go pay for the person behind me just for no reason. Like I used to do that all the time, but now like people will stop me and they'll be like, did you just like pay for my meal? Who are you? What do you do? So and so. So get people to know you, like don't be scared. I met people yesterday that they don't even know that we have a ski resort in Betha. I was shocked to know that some of us as immigrants does not know that. They just hang around here, they wanna be here, they don't know anything but the big cities. Go up there, have people to get to know you. I think as a state, we do need to do more. I see, for example, at least advertisement where, oh, come visit Texas, come visit California. We need to do the same as state, welcoming diversity into here. We need to have some options where not just housing, but housing needs to be mixed with like healthcare jobs, talk about languages being available. There's a community for you up there. But I will tell you in the same time, as immigrants, we need to take the initiative to go and visit these places. Be open to even find the house in the rural areas. They are beautiful, very fresh air, by the way. So it's very gorgeous up there. So
I'll build upon what Mai just mentioned. But I want to say that the attraction to rural or urban area does not depend on the color of the skin. I should be clear on that. But instead of being the driver, there are several things that can attract individual from going either to rural area or urban area. So I just try to make a distinction between the two so people can understand what attracts us or doesn't attract individual. Just want to categorize that all low income in general, let alone just people of color. I agree with her statement that, especially in a rural area, if you're not welcoming, become a little bit scary for the new manner to go there. But in terms of other attraction, in the rural area, you don't have a public transportation. That is a very challenging situation. If you are new to the country, you are new to the area, you depend on the public transportation to take you from point A to point B, you won't be able to go and live in a rural area. Second is access to some grocery stores. I went to Presque Isle with my I'm on a board of Humane Community Foundation, and I found some immigrant there who can drive 5 hours from there to come to Poland to buy some groceries or multicultural food that they can't find anywhere else. So if you're in a rural area, where do you find those kind of food, culture food, or even the community itself? It becomes an issue as well. Employment. It's not a secret to anyone that employment is not in rural area. That's why people keep coming to urban area. But also access to healthcare. You hear most of people saying how it's becoming a challenge to go into rural area to find some healthcare situation. This is not only for people of color, it's for all low income in general. And I'm sure the two people next to me, they can also testify about this. However, on the other hand, what May just said, which is correct, I've actually found so many people who are buying homes, not being able to afford a house in Poland area because it's so expensive. You go to Wyndham, you go to Westbrook, you go to Bridgeton, you go to Hollis, you go to Biddeford, and so on. When I was running for city council in Westbrook, I was impressed to see how many people own homes across the city of Westbrook. Affordability can drive people outside the town, not because they don't want to, but because they need to be able to afford something outside Poland area. And I'm sure that the speaker and the Maine State Housing need to work on something to make magical people can afford also Poland area. In terms of urban area, again, I don't want to repeat what I said. You find access to employment, access to transportation, more inventory on rental units in towns than in rural area. So that's another advantage. You have access to all these amenities that we mentioned, that you don't have to drive 2, 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours to find what you're looking for. So access to the communities is so critical that you have the community available. Also the safety, another issue that you found mostly secure in town more than probably the rural area. It depends. So there are so many challenges, again, to sum all these issues, it's not about people of color to be attracted into one or the other. It's mostly the affordability. You are familiar with supply and demand. When those things don't work out, the prices go up. So if you can afford and if you don't have enough units to rent, the cost of renting will be higher. If you don't have enough to sell, the cost of buying homes will be higher. So people are searching. And those who are going actually outside the urban area are mostly people who have been established here, who can do their own transportation, who can take their own kids to school, to sports, and the other things. But if you are new to the state or county, it's going to be a very challenging situation. Thank you.
Thank you so much for answering that question for us. And by the way, I just wanted to circle back on a situation actually again because this is a real life situation. My husband drive every day to Portland. We're obviously lucky and thankful that we do have that. So it's a conversation that we get to have often that maybe we should actually move to Portland. But he's like, we have a perfect interest rate, but it is actually a situation. Again, I'm not gonna get to COVID times, you guys. We really have a good interest rate, but he's willing to take that journey every single day. That's a 3 hours commute, 1.5 going, 1.5 coming. Of course, by the time he comes home, he's dead. He doesn't want to do anything, but he's happy with his interest rate at least, right? But yeah, like transportation is one of the things for sure. You need to be like right next to where you work. So it is challenging up in the areas, and hopefully we'll have solutions like, on that to attract more people in there in general. So my next question is going to be for you, Ryan. And again, I'm sorry, I'm reading from my phone. Why affordable housing is critical for attracting and retaining talent in Maine, and how we need to consider historical inequities to address access to housing.
Okay. Thank you. That's a great question. I think I'm allotted like 10 minutes to answer it, and it's going to be, I'm going to start in the 1930s, so we'll see how far I can go. First of all, I want to say, I think it'd be um, it'd be wrong not to acknowledge the circumstances that we currently live in. Um, we talk a lot about in the housing space safe and affordable housing, and we're working really diligently to realize the affordability piece. But we cannot realize the safe piece of housing if someone is in a rental unit in a community like mine in Biddeford and they leave their home to go to work during the day and they're stopped by ICE and detained and brought into custody without any reason, without having ever committed a crime. And unfortunately, that is reality. I met with someone just last week whose brother left his house in my community, his sister was driving him to work, and he was detained by ICE without a traffic violation with no criminal history. And so when we talk about safe and affordable housing, it's not just the safety within the confines of the housing, it's safety when you leave to do what you do every single day, which is to contribute to our communities and contribute to our economy and be a productive person in our state. And so we need to talk more about that. I'll save that for later, but I think it's really important that we establish that because we live in unprecedented times where safety is compromised for a lot of people. So the reason why I'm starting in the 1930s is because a lot of what we are dealing with today in the housing sector starts with what happened in the 1930s through our federal government. The Federal Housing Administration back in the 1930s decided that only white people should receive insurance for their home purchases. And the reason why they did that was because they wanted to exclude people of color based on this notion that people of color would sink home values if they were able to purchase homes next to white people. And this is the premise of what we now call redlining. How many of you in this room have read the book, The Color of Law? A few of you. This is an assignment that I'm going to give you. If you take anything away from this conference, a really great read to pick up is The Color of Law by Richard Rothstein. This book takes the journey that I won't do today because I have 7 minutes left of why we have the situation we have with housing, why we have the lack of supply that Claude just referenced. It's not because suddenly overnight there are more people that need housing and we don't have enough units. It's because we have intentionally, over decades, ensured that in many communities, the only thing we build are single-family homes because we want to exclude what at first was based on race and country of origin, and it's now become a matter of classism. Single-family homes for people who can afford them, who are middle class, who are wealthy, and no rental units for people who are lower income, who are just barely on the middle class, and in some cases are in the middle class because they can't afford the average median home price, which is $425,000 in our state. And so they're still renting. But where do you find rentals? Not in Cape Elizabeth. Why? Because Cape Elizabeth doesn't want rental opportunities. And they've made that very clear based on their actions. And this is what's happening not only in Maine, but across the country. And so what we've done in the legislature over the last several years is started to break down these artificial barriers, these decades of regulatory red tape that's been put in place under this notion of planning. We want to have well-planned communities. I'm all for well-planned communities. What I'm not for is single-family zoning that exclusively limits housing possibilities to a single-family home, where you can buy a lot in a town and you can't even build a duplex, so that you can live in one unit and rent out the other and have passive income, which helps you pay your mortgage. In communities where building a 30-unit senior housing complex is not possible because the zoning excludes that kind of density. And so in the Maine legislature back in 2021, we passed a bill, LD 2003, which started to dissolve these decades of regulatory barriers that were initially set up to exclude people based on race, and that have now transformed into exclusions based on classism and racism, both combined. We passed this session, LD 1829, which builds off that work. And so now in every community across the state, if you buy a lot or you own a lot already with a single-family home, you could potentially have up to 3 units on that lot now, regardless of where it is in a community, as long as it's in a residential zone. In some parts of your community, designated as a growth area, you'll be able to get up to 4 units on a lot. If you are in an area that allows for multifamily housing, you can get 2.5 times the density to build that housing. And you'll also get a 1-story height bonus so that you can actually realize the density on the lot that you're allotted. And that's for affordable housing. We also allowed for ADUs on any lot by right. Accessory dwelling units, in-law apartments. I've been told I shouldn't use the term, but some people call them granny flats, whatever you want to call them. But these are options for people to make sure that their kid coming home from college has a place to live, or their aging parent has the ability to age in place, and maybe they don't need to be in an assisted living facility, but they can't stay in their home. And oh, by the way, they're going to sell, to help my realtors in the room, they're gonna sell their 3-bedroom, 2-bath home that they're living in all by themselves because they actually have somewhere to go now. That's how we unlock the housing ecosystem that is keeping everyone from accessing equity, accessing affordability, and accessing safety. So the last thing I want to say before I end my spiel is there's a really important function in our local governments that play a huge role in determining what gets built, who it gets built for, and how it gets built. And those are called planning boards. Anyone in here serve on a planning board? Perfect. Perfect. I am here to recruit you. Who in here lives in Wyndham? Anyone? No one in Wyndham. Anyone live in Westbrook? Claude? I've already got him signed up. He's on the council, so. How about Gray? I'm striking out. How about Sanford? Aha. Perfect. There's a vacancy on your planning board. There's a vacancy on the Wyndham planning board. There's 3 vacancies at the end of the year on the Westbrook planning board. There are 4 vacancies on the Gray planning board right now. How about anyone from Rockland? I was trying to provide some diversity in my selections. There's a vacancy on the Rockland planning board. I guarantee you, if you looked up the town that you live in right now and looked at their boards and commissions, you'll find a vacancy on the planning board. These are the decision makers about what gets built in a community. And if we want to see housing unlocked for people who need it most, we need people like you at the table making these decisions. We need people like you who believe that the future of our state will only be successful if there are places for people to call home that is affordable and safe. And oftentimes, too frequently, the people who get elected to planning boards or who get nominated to planning boards, these are not elected positions, you don't have to run, it's an appointed position, are the people who don't want to see things happen. They raise their hand. They say, "Oh, I'll volunteer my 2 hours every other Tuesday because I want to say no. I want to say no to every single thing that's proposed." And then nothing gets built. That's what happens and what has happened in communities across our state. So I hope that you all are checking your municipal website right now. You'll look to see what vacancies might exist and that you'll consider signing up for what is essentially most of the time a 2-hour meeting every other week that has a real possibility of making a difference in our communities and building the housing we need for the people who need it most. So thank you. Right on time.
Yeah, that was great. And yeah, definitely be part of the decision making, especially when it comes to housing. It's very important. Thank you, Ryan. So the next question for Dan. The resources and solutions available in Maine to improve accessibility to purchasing a home. So we want to talk a little bit about that.
Great. Well, thank you very much. I think May and Amy did a wonderful job outlining the core of the business that I am in, Director of Maine Housing. For those of you not familiar, Maine State Housing Authority is a quasi-independent agency of the state. And what does that mean? So about 55 years ago, the legislature created us. Back in the late 1960s, an outgrowth of Lyndon Johnson's War on Poverty, President Johnson's War on Poverty. And we are essentially the state's affordable housing bank. And we are allowed by the state to issue tax-exempt bonds on Wall Street. What does that mean? That means Maine Housing is able to get capital dollars cheaper than banks can get them through their markets. So we have a competitive advantage in the market by the way we raise our revenue by selling bonds. We've sold about $10 billion in bonds in our history. What do we do with that money? We borrow the money from the investors at a low interest rate. And then on the single family side, for people looking to buy homes that we just had that great presentation on, we are able, if you meet certain criteria, that you're a first-time home buyer, that your income doesn't exceed a certain level, that the value of the home meets certain parameters, that it is a good investment. The 640 credit score, the bond people make us put that there. Our lending partners like Androscoggin and 39 or 40 others around the state make those mortgages. Then they turn around and they sell them to us. We buy packs of mortgages every 2 weeks. We buy about 1,000 mortgages a year. Our current interest rate is 5.95% fixed 30 years compared to the market interest rate, which is about 7% right now. If you are a first generation buyer, if your immediate parents or family, or if you came through the foster care, you're the first person in your family to buy a home, that rate goes down to 4.95%. With the 5.95% rate, you get a $5,000 grant for down payment and closing costs. For first generation, it's $10,000. And there are other scenarios if you want to buy a duplex or a threeplex. So we are an agency that is serving a public purpose for people who are trying to get into their first homes. That's essentially what we do on that side of our business. We had a great presentation about all the various components, the mortgage insurance and how all that works. I won't go back over that. But our participating lenders is what feeds Maine Housing. The legislature gives us the authority by how much money we can borrow and how much debt we can carry. So I don't report to the governor. We're quasi-independent. We're not a political organization, but we are closely aligned with state government, and we report up through a legislative committee that oversees us, and we also have great relationships with the speaker, the governor, the Senate, as well as our congressional delegation. So we have a pipeline of loans right now that are the highest that I can ever imagine. I've been in Maine Housing 32 years, and the pipeline and activity that is coming into Maine Housing is highest that it's ever been. We're going to be buying over $250 million in loans this year. So we are doing tremendous work. Our team is doing tremendous work. Our banking community is doing tremendous work. One thing that we didn't touch on as much that is absolutely critical, especially if you're new to Maine, if you're new to this country, is homebuyer education. And we have partnered with Claude for many, many years, and our network of educators in the state around homebuyer education, understanding a lot of what is a mortgage, what is a mortgage loan, what is interest, what are the smart things I need to think about before I buy a home. But before that, if you're new to the country, what is banking? What's a budget? How does this all work? And so we have added a layer of educational opportunities for people who are not only new to home buying, but new to just simple banking in the United States, and how the United States banking system work, and why it's so important to have a credit rating, and so on and so forth. I think, now I'll go back to the question that was asked. The resources and solutions, we've talked about them. Going to your local lender. On our website, it's mentioned mainehousing.org. We do have a list of all the lenders that we work with. These are solid lenders. They're good organizations. They're credit unions. They're banks. That is the place to start. We're in an unprecedented time. It wasn't just before COVID. The average price of a home in Maine was $175,000 to $190,000. $425,000 right now. It's insane. However, with that said, we are still serving people. We are still putting our resources to work. That's just one half of our bank. The other half is our multifamily side, which we'll be talking about when the next question comes to the speaker and I. But that's what we've been up to.
Thank you so much. And I just wanted to add that we do actually see buyers like giving up on the whole process because they do not have the right resources. Some even start the journey just looking at like their credit score, whatever, and be like, oh, I'm never gonna be able to afford a house. So make sure to ask like a lender, a real estate agent. Go to the HUD website, Maine Prosperity. There are grants out there. There is help for you out there. but nothing is going to happen, obviously, if you don't ask questions. So always ask questions and find the resources. So even if you know your credit score is bad, it's at 400, talk to a lender. They might actually have lots of options for you that you don't even know it did exist. It's actually mind-blowing. There are lots of things, and it's funny, I'm gonna add to that, when I came to the country, I did not understand what does the mortgage word mean. I had to Google it because I did not know what is a mortgage, because we do not use mortgages in Egypt. So, it's tough. And if you don't have, I wouldn't say Google, because Google was my guide, but don't do that. But if you don't have the right resources, you're really not gonna no, you're gonna give up on the entire journey. So please don't do that and ask questions. My next question is going to be for Amy. From a lending perspective, what specific financing programs are understood in Maine that could help our workforce become homeowners?
Sure. Well, Dan spoke a lot about Maine State Housing, and I mentioned that in my presentation as well. That's my go-to for so many first-time home buyers. Um, the the other program that we have at Androscoggin Bank is a great program that is a grant-issued program where there is a buy down. You don't have to be a first-time home buyer, but for anyone who is earning 80% or less of the median income in their community, they would be eligible for this program. And like many grant programs, there's money at the beginning of the year, where in August it was all used up by June. But that interest rate, it was a permanent rate buy down for these buyers who were income eligible. The rates last year, I think, were 5.25%. So Maine State Housing, working with a lender, I don't want to be negative about any national lenders. I think there are a lot of great companies out there, but a local lender is going to have access to probably the most programs that are available.
Thank you so much for answering that question for us. And next question is going to be for Dan and Ryan. How is Maine increasing the supply of affordable housing?
Okay. So when it comes to creating affordable housing supply, we've talked about the single-family side and buying mortgages. The other side that we're very active on is we're a direct lender to multifamily housing developers. We did a study with a national organization a few years ago that said that the state of Maine needed 84,000 new homes by 2030. That includes all income levels. That's not just affordable, but it gives you a sense of what the need is. We had, through federal government programs, not only the horrifying federal policies that the speaker mentioned earlier about single family, on the multifamily side, the federal government really stopped investing in affordable housing creation in the 1980s. And where real meaningful direct investment in the creation of affordable housing at the national level kind of stopped. And a new program was put forward in the 1980s in response. It's a novel program, it's a nice program, it's a low-income housing tax credit program. It's complicated, it's run by the IRS, but we, over the years, have perfected using that tool. But we can't use that tool without the investment of dollars from the state government and the federal government. The bottom line is that operating costs in Maine and the rents that you can charge simply aren't high enough to take advantage of this buying power we have with our bonds. So we need what we call subsidy in order to run and fuel these multifamily housing development. We got plenty of developers, we got plenty of construction companies. There are many communities out there that do have good planning boards and do have good leadership, despite the very true things the speaker talked about in certain areas. So there's a lot of potential to do a lot. And when Governor Mills came in office in 2019, she knows this, and beginning in 2019, there has been a massive and bipartisan effort to support Maine housing and what we do with these subsidy dollars in many creative ways. 2 weeks in, the governor signed an affordable housing bond that got the ball rolling. A few years later, the legislature unanimously, which when can you ever say the legislature does anything unanimously, passed a state low-income housing tax credit for us. Massive investment. When the coffers of the state government were full of money, for the very first time under the Speaker's leadership and the Governor's leadership, direct investment came to Maine Housing in the form of dollars that have allowed us to increase the production of multifamily buildings from about 250 units a year to over 750 a year, which is where we currently are right now. So again, been there 32 years. I've run the development team for 10 years. Having a pipeline of that size only happens when an absolutely dedicated, focused, unified approach from state leaders to provide dollars happens, and we've had the benefit of that. We're now in different economic times, and the ability for the Speaker to write us a check is no longer there. However, there is bonding. We can issue, the state can issue bonds that come our way, largely in the form of subsidy, but that requires cooperation of the legislature. And I know the Speaker and I shared the same sentiment that we really hope that this session coming up, we can have another infusion in the form of a bond. But I'll stop there, other than just not only the gratefulness of Maine Housing for this investment, but also the creation of a new fund that I'll let the Speaker talk about, which was one of the crowning achievements of the last session.
Yeah, so huge credit to Maine Housing and Dan's team, because they have not only taken the successful long-time low-income housing tax credit program, but with the federal dollars that the state received during the pandemic, the American Rescue Plan funds, the legislature created two new programs. One called the Rural Affordable Housing Program, which is intended to build smaller 5 to 18 unit buildings, which is more in line with the character of places like Rumford, and provides rental opportunities in communities where there aren't a lot of rental opportunities, and that program has been successfully implemented. Probably after LIHTC, the most popular program the Maine Housing has run. And then we also created an affordable home ownership program that is similarly building home ownership opportunities for families who earn 120% of AMI or below. And that program, I think all the funding for that program was also spent down. So,
yeah, we've been fortunate. I've got a great team, and when we get money, we get it out the door, and developers do respond and react, including a rural project in Rumford that I've had the opportunity to visit. I want to say one of the most important things that just happened is a upgrade, if you will, to what's called the Home Fund, or the real estate transfer tax in Maine. And the Speaker led the effort this past year to increase every single transaction that happens in the state of Maine, whether it's single family or multifamily, parties pay a real estate transfer tax. And it's usually, considering other states in the country, it's not that big of a tax, but it's meaningful. It's half of it's always flowed to Maine Housing to help us do what we do. This past year, the legislature passed the Speaker's bill, which increases the rate of tax on sales of homes over $1 million, with those funds being dedicated to a new housing production fund. So we no longer need, well, I won't say no longer because we're going to ask for it anyway. We will now have, for the very first time, a dedicated, ongoing, forever funding source for housing production in the state of Maine, depending on the rate of real estate sales. So that allows us to keep our business lines going. However, in order to keep at that level that we need to get that 84, be part of the solution to get that 84,000 new homes, we need like a bond issue. So there are the state low-income housing tax credit and the new housing production fund are two of like ongoing fundamental legacy building achievements in the last 6 years that I sit on the national board for the National Council of State Housing Authorities. I get to sit with my peers around the country and brag about this because it's amazing. And then the phone rings saying, how did you do that? How did you structure it? How did it work? We've won national awards for the Rural Affordable Rental Housing Program. So we're doing tremendous things, and we have exhausted our funding right now. Our programs will be closing down unless we can keep this going, and that's our hope.
Yeah, and the only thing I'll add is this new housing production fund that was created by increasing the real estate transfer tax on the portion of the sale above $1 million. So just the portion above $1 million, not even if it's a $1.5 million transaction, the tax is increased only on the portion that is above $1 million, so the $500,000, not the full 1.5. And what we did was we created a production fund that will fund in perpetuity the 3 key programs that Maine Housing administers, and that is really important. We will guarantee, maybe not to the extent that we need because we have a large amount of housing that we need to build, but we will guarantee that there will at least be some production on an annual basis through that production fund. And we last checked, I think last week, there was a home sale. There were 2 houses for sale, both which would set records for the state of Maine, over $15 million. And I'm hoping they sell after the law takes effect because it's not effective yet. So I'm hoping there is no prospective buyer out there just yet, and that it will sell after the law takes effect, so we can actually take those transactions and put the money into the coffer. And then the other thing that this bill did, just to harp back on the first-time homebuyer thing, is it also eliminates the real estate transfer tax entirely for first-time homebuyers qualified through Maine Housing, and it also eliminates it for the seller. So if the seller is considering bids from prospective buyers, and one of them is using a qualified loan through Maine Housing, they will not pay the real estate transfer tax, and nor will the buyer. And so creating a little bit of a sweetener in the pot, which is needed because of the competitive market that housing is in. That law hasn't taken effect yet. It will take effect in November 1st. So if you're a first-time home buyer, on November 1st, you'll no longer pay the real estate transfer tax, and nor will the person who sells the home to you. And that's a pretty significant. I think that's a pretty significant change in the law. I don't think a lot of people raise their hands that they're first-time home buyers, but if you know someone who is, let them know that this is the new law, that they will not pay the transfer tax.
Yeah, that's absolutely a great option. And yeah, we are as real estate agent will be waiting for that. And yeah, we did see that place in Rumford. Rumford is actually one of the towns where we needed this because even the rentals there, they are old. And yeah, so it was amazing. And I see it's not that far away from my home. It's an amazing project and people working on it day and night. So my next question is going to be for you, Claude. We have probably like 5 minutes. So what housing services are available in the impact on people from diverse backgrounds?
Yeah, I think you heard so many people talking about first home buyer. I'm so honored to be between Director Dan and also Speaker Ryan because they both have been really the champion of supporting some of these services that we see. I would just, for the sake of time, I can just give you a list of services that either we have a Prosperity Maine or across the state that you can see. Housing navigation was one of the services that helps connect new people who are looking to get engaged with the landlord because they knew they didn't have anything. That program is going to be ending in December, but I'm not sure, but it has really been so successful. We use the program to house all the folks from Howard Johnson and also folks who are in the Saco Hotel. So that is a wonderful program to help. There is a security deposit program that we continue to provide. That actually is also in conjunction with housing stability, which is something that we just also have passed from the legislation. We have a gap support, which is a rental supplemental, because again, the rent is super high since COVID, and people from outside coming to invest into real estate here, really increasing the prices for rental units. So, and it becomes a little bit unavailable. Instead of having so many unhoused people, we've figured out a way to increase a little bit beyond what general assistance can do, so that those people can continue to have a place to stay. We just started another program called the Rental Assurance Fund, which is a new program that can help folks who are not eligible because they don't have a credit, they don't have a work yet, but they're general GA support, but the landlord are hesitating to give them the apartment. So we're gonna be working on that program as well. We have a HEAP system, which helps also in a winter program. You heard so many people talking about financial literacy. It's really a critical component that we provide, that we help people build a good credit. We don't only help people rent an apartment, but we prepare them for long-term for home ownership. We don't see success as someone rents an apartment. We see a success when someone owns a home. That's what we're aiming at, the American dream. So you can find financial literacy and coaching also at our agency. It's so many other agencies. Avesta Housing has home ownership. You have so many other organizations that can provide that. There is also homeless prevention service. They even a legal service to help those who are subject to eviction. So again, like I said before, the biggest challenge despite all these services, again, it's a supply and demand. I don't want to go back there. They just mentioned about what they do in the state is doing to increase the supply. Those bonds are vital, and also main housing, even offering the low interest rate for first home buyer is really wonderful thing. I have worked with Mainstate Housing as an agency for almost 17 years. It's been really a wonderful partner, and we appreciate their work and the support. So does the speaker. I was telling the speaker, chief of staff, that I missed the State House because I was there for a long time in the last session. But I'm so happy that we can continue to work together to provide these services, and also whatever is available to share with all of you, and you can share with your client. Please feel free to send them to Prosperity Man. If we can provide a service, we'll be able to refer them to other services that exist. Thank you.
Thank you, Claude. And I wanted to definitely echo him on the options again, as an immigrant. When I came here, once I had my social security number, so I didn't know that, but my credit was saying unknown. So it's not even saying zero, it's saying unknown. So that was a huge problem just trying to even buy a car. I couldn't buy a car. But again, I was not having the options back then, or I did not get actually educated about the options out there. So make sure definitely to check Prosperity Maine, and that's actually gonna get to the next question a little bit to Amy too, about what immigrants go through. So the question is, what lending challenges do you see most often for first-time or immigrant buyers, and what solutions can be, can the mortgage industry implement to close those gaps?
Yeah, thank you so much, Maya. I mean, I think everyone's touched on some of the challenges here, and I can't emphasize education enough. One of the most common problems I see with first-time home buyers and new Mainers when they're applying for a mortgage is lack of credit history. coming back unknown or coming back with a low score just because we don't have time. So that's a big part of it. And that's why I encourage new Mainers, new immigrants, even if they feel like they're too far away from even being able to qualify or purchase a home, a lot of these things to improve your credit and build your credit, we want time on our side. So while you're building your work history and your 2-year history, we can start to work on building that credit through secured credit cards, through partnering with a local bank or a credit union, and really starting to establish that. Another thing that is a big challenge with new Mainers, and some disappointing news from FHA last year. I don't know if everyone in the room is aware of it, but they changed their policy to no longer lend to immigrants who were not, yeah, so they no longer lend to asylum seekers for an FHA loan. That has a trickle-down problem on a lot of levels because a lot of people, FHA, I'm trying to say this without getting too into the weeds about lending details, but FHA is a great loan program because it allows a higher debt-to-income ratio than some of our other loans. Sometimes, many times, it's the only loan program that a new buyer can qualify for, or someone who's been a homeowner in the past. And when we can't do an FHA loan for them, we're then looking at doing a conventional loan, which with a lower credit score, we're now looking at a much higher private mortgage insurance premium. So all of these things are really connected. I would say another big challenge we have with Maine State Housing, and I'm so honored to be with this panel today, and I'm really looking forward to connecting with everyone because I have lots of other questions and ideas. But with Maine State Housing, so if they are not eligible for an FHA loan, then we flip and we say, okay, well, maybe we can do a conventional loan, but they only have 5% down or 3% down. Maine State Housing has great programs, but they don't have private mortgage insurance partners. We're only eligible for those 5 or 6 cities. So it's certain areas that you can only get private mortgage insurance. So that's another obstacle. So we're looking at, okay, we can't do FHA, but we can't do conventional. So it really limits where our people can buy. It limits what programs they're available for. Another challenge that I see with new Mainers, compliments to I love working with new Mainers. Most of the people that I meet who are looking to buy a house, you guys are hustlers, really hard workers, and a lot of people have multiple jobs. So with a program like Maine State Housing that is income driven, oftentimes you're working these 3 jobs and you're earning more money than what you might necessarily qualify for, or you're working part-time, and with part-time income, we need a full 2-year history. So another challenge is, while you think you're doing the best thing by working multiple jobs, when it is jobs like Uber or Lyft or any sort of tipped income, when it's variable income, the challenge for the lender becomes we're looking back historically at what we can use for eligible income, and they want a 2-year history if it's not a salary position. And so a lot of new Mainers aren't getting, salary positions. They're getting, hourly jobs that they're working different hours each week, so there's not consistency in the hours on their paycheck. Or they're working multiple jobs to try to save as much as they can for a home, but that might be putting them over the income eligibility. So we're in this, you mentioned it, Dan, earlier, we're in a really tricky position where home prices are so high. You have to earn a certain amount of money to be eligible to qualify for these loans, and property taxes to continue to go up. Everything's getting more expensive as inventory continues to be low, and we're in what we still have called for years a seller's market. So it's a real challenge to balance earning enough money to qualify, not earning too much to be eligible for these great programs. So I think, there are great programs available still, but it all comes back to education for buyers, just so they understand how can you set yourself up for success, how can we get you into home ownership, how can we start building wealth and helping you be successful.
Thank you, Amy, Dan, Claude, and Ryan. Thank you so much for being here. We're going to be here for a little bit, so if anybody has questions or want to know more about resources and what's available, what is the website where you can find that, please come find us and ask your questions. And I believe it's time for lunch, so go ahead and enjoy your lunch. Thank you so much for having us.